Welcome to Leadership Podcast with Alexander Thorek. Today I have a great guest, Dr. Daniel Livvarcin. He is a retired Navy captain with 30 years of service, the founder of Vectors Group, and a professor at the University of Ottawa. We are diving today into corporate culture, and today we will discuss three questions. Why having a strong culture is important, how leaders understand and live their values, and how leaders can shape culture for real impact. So let's dive into it. Hi, Daniel.
Hi, Alex. Thank you for having me here today. Thank you.
So today we'll talk about why having strong culture is important. So based on my study and research and talking to different leaders, I realized that a lot of managers and even top management, they just don't understand culture the right way. They focusing on their vision, their values, strategies. But when I talk to them about their culture and I ask them, what do you think about your culture? Do you have a strong culture? And they said, yes, absolutely. We have a very strong culture. And when I asked them, just tell me a little bit about it. So they mentioned about their values, their mission, and this is what they just were focusing on. But culture is not what they see. Culture is what they do together with their people. Basically, culture is a behavior, and how they behave determines how successful those organizations will become. So please, Daniel, tell us about the culture that you see based in your experience and what you can advise to leaders why having strong culture is important. And yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. I think this is a great question. So organizational culture, it's like a myth, right? So everybody talks about organizational culture. It's kind of a cliche. They believe that they have strong organizational culture, but it may not be the case in most of the organizations. So I have the privilege to observe hundreds of nonprofit organizations, businesses, and government organizations all around the world. And you can immediately see this strong organizational culture or the lack of organizational culture. I like using simple examples, just using metaphors to explain some complex issues. And organizational culture is a very complex phenomenon, but on the other hand, it's also possible to explain it with a simple example. I see organizational culture as the steering system of a car. Okay, so as you know, the steering system transfers the movements of the driver to the rest of the car. So if you turn left, if you use the wheel, it transfers that information to the tire. If you press the brake, it stops the car, but it's not the brake itself, right? So it transfers that information to the rest of the car. So organizational culture is the connection between the leadership and the rest of the organization. So the leadership does an action, and this action must be repeated or supported at the organizational level. But if your steering system is not strong enough, right? So if it is not following the leadership, then you cannot transfer the function. So you may press the brake, but the car may not stop. Or you may press the gas, but the car may not speed up. You may try to direct the organization in certain direction, but the wheels may not follow you. It's not they follow you, but it's also the harmony of the whole organization to follow the leadership, right? So it seems like a simple action, and this is literally the case for the leaders. They do small actions, but these small actions have big reflections across the company. And this happens only if the organization has a strong organizational structure.
Yeah, I like this analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
And you addressed the what is the biggest problem, right? So what, and I see this. So there is a illusion. Okay, so when I was a kid, my father used to put me in his lap. I mean, the car was on stop, but he allows me to hold the wheel. Okay, the car was not going anywhere, but I was holding the wheel, pretending as if I'm driving the car. Okay, so I turn left, turn right, nothing changes, but I was small and I got the impression that I was actually driving the car. But so this is happening in real life. So the leaders, the wise, smart, and brilliant, hardworking leaders, they make decisions, they establish strategic roadmaps, they hold the wheel, they turn the wheel, and they assume that the company is following them. But I mean, just like in my case, unfortunately, in many of the cases, the company doesn't follow the guidance, the leadership of the organization. They are holding the field. They may even convince them that they have the full control of the organization. But if they don't have an organizational culture that supports their administration or leadership, there may be some misalignments, and these misalignments can have severe results, right? So if your wheels are not if your tires are not following your wheel, then you can end up with a big accident. Then you cannot go to the right direction. You cannot speed up when you want to speed up, or you cannot stop when you want to stop. And so if you are too busy with holding the wheel, and if you are not paying attention to the rest of the car or organization, if your organizational culture, as a leader, you will possibly miss some very important components. And sooner or later, those missed points will cause some strategic and operational problems for the organization.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that I realized by doing my observation and studies and talking to different leaders that they are so smart. They're just brilliant, and they're just really good at what they're doing. But it's like I talked to one leader and I asked him, "What is your biggest challenge right now?" He told me, "You know, Alex, we have a deficit of employees, of workforce." I asked, "Why?" And he asked me, "Well, to be honest, before COVID, we didn't have this problem. Now we have this problem because people especially young people, they have more opportunities to work or from home, or they have another opportunities to work in different jobs, in different places, and so on." So I say to him, "Well, it's not a human problem, it's a leadership problem. Because you had humans, like we mentioned in the last podcast that we just discussed about challenges that leaders have. So we had same people before COVID, we had same people 100 years ago, and we have same people now. The biggest deficit that you have right now, and we have all our society has, we have a deficit of leadership. People are not focusing on humans. I mean, leaders are not focusing on humans. Leaders are focusing on things. And this is, I think, the biggest worldwide problem what we have right now. It's a cultural problem. Culture in terms of organizational problem. This is my vision, what I see. Instead of focusing on people and people's values, but leaders focusing on how to do things differently.
Yeah, that was a trend that started with the classical school of management, focusing on results, and it came to our era that and popular theories rely on management by objectives, right? So you try to get results, and as far as you make the company profitable or you make the company going, then you are a successful leader. But with the neoclassical school, there was a promising focus on human beings. I mean, human beings were not independent from the leadership. That was a new approach. But I agree with you. There is still gap. And the deficit of leadership is not necessarily deficit of good people or skilled people or smart people, right? So unfortunately,
Absolutely.
or interestingly, many of the unsuccessful leaders are good people and are smart people, are hardworking people. But the gap is they don't reflect their potential to the organization. They try to solve problems by themselves. Actually, leadership is not asking people to follow them, right? So leadership is working together with your team. And as in my car example, I mean, holding the wheel means nothing unless you have the whole car or whole steering system working together with you. So it's not easy to do. I mean, it's easy to say, but building a leadership capacity, I mean, you cannot ask people to follow you, but if you start following them, if you start listening them, then they will follow you automatically. But in any organization, the primary responsibility belongs to the leader to build the organizational culture. So if there is a lack of organizational culture, we cannot blame the staff. We cannot blame the customers. We cannot blame the environment. It's the leader. So probably one of the leaders' main task is to establish and secure a strong organizational culture. And this doesn't has to be the same, right? So every single organization may have their own structure, just like cars having different systems. But as far as they comply with the organization's mission and the operations, they will function. And even this mindset, I mean, focusing on organizational culture and deciding to focus on individuals and on human beings, not just on the results, not just on the profit, but also on the performance and the efficiency and the happiness of the employees or their involvement in the organization can make a huge difference. And I'm glad you brought that topic because this is how things start. Right? So start talking about this and people start thinking about it and they improve their leadership skills and they improve their organizations.
Yes. And Daniel, what do you think, why do leaders fail during cultural transformation?
I think the primary reason is they are overconfident and they make assumptions, just like in my childhood. Okay, so holding the wheel, and I say, okay, my father used to do it. Now I'm holding the wheel. I have the power. Okay, but this is just an illusion because you don't have the power if you don't have the people. So, and many, well, not majority, but unfortunately, many of the leaders, they are overconfident and you know they are reluctant to accept that their leadership relies on the other people, and they fail in understanding the culture, nurturing the culture, securing the culture, and saving the culture. They just assume that they can survive without organizational culture, and this is the biggest mistake. Without people, no single organization can succeed, no matter how successful leaders you have, right? So how smart leaders you have, I can guarantee that the organization will fail unless they have an organizational culture, strong organizational culture. But many people don't see this need. They assume that their existing skills, their past, their success in other organizations, or their profit records can ensure their success in their new organization. So they just ignore this fact. And when they notice the importance, it's usually too late. If you ruin the organizational culture, if you damage the organizational culture, it's really difficult to fix it and you know, make it work again. So you need to do it at the beginning and you need to do it with your people.
Okay, but how they can fix that culture?
Well, the easiest way is to get closer to their staff, get closer to their employees and understand what they need and share, right? So listen to them and share your vision and try to find some common points. So communication is a key. you understand your employees, and you tell your vision, and you make them understand, and you make adjustments, right? So you cannot push a strategy to your team. You give up, and they give up, and you try to find something that works for everyone. I think the quickest answer is strong organizational communication will support strong organizational culture.
Okay, Daniel, thank you for that. And another question, what I'd like to ask, what do you think, based on your experience, what would you advise to leaders, how they can grow themselves as leaders also?
I like the approach of servant leadership style, Alex. So leadership is not ruling people. Leadership is serving people. And if you change your mindset according to this, then you start listening more to people. And the more you listen, the stronger organizational culture you will be. Sometimes even having a coffee with your team can make a big difference, more difference than months of organizational training programs, right? So this some tiny things that shows your passion to work together with people can make a big difference. And we can train ourselves to do that by looking at successful examples.
Yeah. And what I realized through my military career, well, you have a little bit more, you have 30 years, I have 20 years.
Yes.
So the main method of development, of officers' development, is self-development.
Yes. Yeah.
When we just go into situation in purpose, ask our subordinates questions in purpose, learn from them, and then we understand how we have to change also. It's really interesting to observe how our culture is changing during this transformational period when we try to add value to other people. And actually, this has become our habit to serve people well.
Well said, Alex. I can't agree more. Yes.
Yeah. One of the leaders, he said that, what are you doing today to grow your leaders in your organization? What can you advise to leaders how they can develop their leaders?
Well, it's closely related with human psychology. We do this. I personally repeat this mistake so many times. We assume that we will stay in those roles forever. So we don't have succession plans. We don't, and if we don't have a plan to ensure the sustainability of the organizational culture and the organization, then there will be a point that we will fail, right? So I own my own company. It's my passion. It's like my baby. And I mean, I may have a couple of decades ahead of me, but this is my optimistic view, right? So maybe I don't have that time. So I need to train leaders and make them ready to take over my tasks when needed. And we can give them chances to practice some leadership skills and gain some skills and contribute to the organizational culture, because when they contribute, they will take the ownership, right? So they will feel more bonded, connected to the organizational culture. And when the time comes, they will not hesitate to take the responsibility. So we need to be aware that we are not here for forever, and we need to have this plan to invest in future leaders.
I see. And also I'd like to ask you, Daniel, what leaders can do to increase their effectiveness?
I think the best way is to work as a team. Okay, so individually, we can do certain things. I mean, even the smartest people, like they refer to Einstein. So two people are smarter than Einstein, right? So if you merge their skills, they are smarter than Einstein.
Absolutely.
So easy. And imagine if you are leading an organization of 100 people, and if you can find a way to work together, then it's so powerful. And literally, I use this example, Alex. So let's say you are a team of 3, okay? So if you work independently, your sum is 1 + 1 + 1, which is only 3. But if you find a way to work shoulder to shoulder together as a team, then it may become 111, right? So this is the magic of working together, not just adding individual efforts, but even more than multiplying your efforts, working as a single body. This is not easy to apply, but there are so many successful organizations that achieve that, right? So we know some organizations, they started as a startup and they grew so fast, and they are usually small teams, but very strong teams with very strong organizational culture.
Thank you, leadership listeners, for being with us today. I believe that you learned today from Dr. Daniel Livvarcin, from his experience, from his examples that he discussed and added value to you about corporate culture, what corporate culture is, how you can live those values. And next, our podcast that will discuss about the 5-step tactical system will add more value to you. So we'll discuss about 5 steps, how you can approach your culture, how you can design it, shape it, and together with your team, walk the talk and create a huge and strong cumulative effect that will affect your organizational success for years to come. So thank you for being with us. Subscribe on Leadership Podcast, and here you can see and hear real life examples about leadership and different application tools. Thank you.